Hello everyone and welcome to Inside the Naval Postgraduate School from Monterey, California. I'm your host, Alan Richmond. Well, frequently we have the opportunity to host distinguished guests on our campus here in Monterey, and that's the case as we kick off our first segment of Inside NPS with a visit from the VCNO, Admiral Jonathan Greenert. Admiral Greenert, welcome to the Naval Postgraduate School. It's always an honor and a pleasure to have you visit our campus. In terms of education, how does education play an important role in a young military officer's career?
Well, I think it's critically important that we have officers who have strategic savvy. They understand the strategic process, but yet they have to be tactically astute. What education gives them is that critical thinking background, and it gives them the confidence so that when we ask them to be decision makers who are responsible and accountable, they have that confidence and that foundation before them, and that's what education provides them.
Why would you recommend someone come to the Naval Postgraduate School, and why is an education at NPS relevant?
It's important because this school not only has a great accreditation, it's got a broad background in the arts, in the sciences, and in business, but they're willing to target their education, if you will, and their schools to what's relevant to our Navy. So we have middle decision makers, middle managers now who have a broad-based background on foundations of sciences and business, but yet which we can use in our strategy and our maritime strategy as we go ahead.
How would you compare today's military members to those of yesteryear?
Well, I would tell you that the folks that we recruit in the Navy today are vastly, I'd say, smarter and better educated than whenever I was a junior officer. And our officers do extremely well in competing with fellowships, scholarships, et cetera. And when they leave the Navy, when their service is complete, whether it's a full career or 10 years, they do extremely well in business and in pursuing other fields of their other fields of education or science or business.
Can you comment for us on our current U.S. maritime strategy?
Well, our maritime strategy was rolled out in 2007 after 2 years of development. And Alan, what I'm really proud to say today is we are living our maritime strategy. As we look at operations around the world, we are in every theater. We're doing everything from humanitarian assistance, disaster recovery, to assisting partner nations with their strategic issues or with maritime security. But at the same time, we are projecting power where needed, deterring where needed, controlling the seas in order to ensure maritime commerce is appropriate. So we're living, if you will, and breathing that core element of the maritime strategy we've known for years, and we're developing in the new areas of maritime security around the world and disaster relief.
Well, with all the ports of call in the world, how are we doing in terms of keeping up with the risks?
Our biggest challenge is maritime domain awareness, and as you mentioned, throughout the last, say, 20, 30 years, we've done a remarkable job around the world partnering with information of what is moving through the air. I mean, it's just necessary. We know where aircraft are at any given time. We need to pursue that sort of awareness on the surface and in the undersea domain, an area where, frankly, we know more about outer space than we do about our undersea domain. So maritime domain awareness on the surface and in the undersea domain, I think, is where we need to pursue.
Admiral, how does our submarine fleet stack up against all the other fleets in the world today?
Well, our submarine fleet remains the premier submarine force, both in technology, but most importantly in our people. We have some of the brightest, best operators in our submarine force that we've ever had. I could tell you I couldn't compete with, when I was a junior officer, I can't compete with the junior officers we have out there today. But we have to be vigilant to the future. 40 countries have 300 submarines out there, and at least half of them are not friendly. So we need to remain aware, we need to remain vigilant, and we have to have a good strategy out there in the future to remain the dominant force.
As NPS celebrates its centennial, where do you see us going in the next 100 years?
Again, one of the strengths of this institution is its adaptation, but maintaining standards. And I think cyberspace is an area that the Naval Postgraduate School could help us out directly and assuredly. The research area, researching technologies which are relevant to us, such as laser technology, improving our acquisition force. We've had a dip, if you will, in our skills in our force, people with a background knowledge of acquisition skills. So that would be quite helpful as well. And as I mentioned before, maritime domain awareness, pulling the undersea domain and the surface domain into a network that we understand, like we understand the air domain today.
Well, the world keeps turning and changes are constant. Where are we in the world today in terms of members of the armed forces? Any message you'd like to send to them?
Well, number one, thank you for your service. We are blessed to have a generation of kids who are willing to contribute so much and sacrifice so much and give to something more than themselves. As I get out and around, I'm continually encouraged by folks that just want to do better and are not interested in kudos or awards for themselves, but in accomplishing the mission, and it's quite heartening.
Could you speak a little bit to the support that families provide to today's military members?
Without the foundation for our troops of a family supporting them, they are not able to do their mission. And one thing I have found, a common thread of our successes in all our units has been a solid foundation of family support. So we have to have family programs that enable our families to be informed so that they can be prepared, so that they can be resilient as we go through these tough times supporting two wars.
Well, Admiral, it's been a pleasure having you here at the Naval Postgraduate School, and we hope you come back again soon. Thank you. Up next, a visit with foreign area officers from all over the world who recently met here at the Naval Postgraduate School. Proving once again that it is an international hub for foreign area officers, the Naval Postgraduate School recently hosted the 4th Annual Foreign Area Officers Conference. With its theme, Today's FAO, Warrior, Scholar, Diplomat, the conference highlights the many hats foreign area officers must wear and how their roles are growing. It also gives FAOs from across the services a chance to get together and learn with and from each other.
It gives them an opportunity to talk to experts in the field whom they may not see on a day-to-day basis here at the Naval Postgraduate School. Second, and perhaps even more important, it represents a joint network building opportunity because NPS is a focal point for FAO education, and we have foreign area officers from all of the services. It gives that joint community, that cadre, an opportunity to develop lines of communications that might not exist otherwise.
I see this conference as an indicator of joint FAO really getting traction. There's Air Force, Army, Marine Corps, Navy FAOs in that room. There's even some interagency folks in the room. This is where the connective tissue grows between some uniquely qualified professionals.
Rear Admiral Lemons says because of its joint nature, the benefits of this conference will be seen as foreign area officers are deployed to their various regions of expertise.
I think that in this conference, you're seeing the networking happen between the services. And while we are growing maritime FAOs in the Navy and the Marine Corps and the Coast Guard, you're going to have Army FAOs and Air Force and FAOs downrange where there will be no Navy FAO. And they're going to need to understand and explain the global maritime partnership plans and be able to explain what we're trying to achieve as a maritime service. And by having the network and the linkage and the understanding and the friends that they're developing in that conference room, they're going to be able to reach out and get the information and get the Navy engaged in places that the Navy is needed.
And in today's world of increasing global connectivity, the demand for foreign area officers continues to grow.
Globalization affects the military just as much as anyone else. Our most recent QDR, Quadrennial Defense Review, which just came out, targeted that as one of the 6 key missions is developing alliances, working with our partners to ensure our national goals and world common goals can be shared. If we're dealing with partners, we need to network with partners. If we deal outside of our borders, we'll need FAOs. More and more, the real world conditions that we face in conflict and in avoiding conflict involve having officers who are adroit at interweaving or linking up the cultures, the regional knowledge, the languages with the American spirit and the American goals. And FAOs are vital to that.
Serving as the largest gathering of FAOs in the world, the Foreign Area Officers Conference has proved to be a huge success.
This has been a student-run and led initiative from the very beginning, and I'm very proud to say that the students have done an absolutely remarkable job with it since its inception 4 years ago. And once again, they've tallied up a great success.
Well, coming up next, we have an opportunity to learn about data farming.
You're trying to look at it.
The Naval Postgraduate School recently played host to the International Data Farming Workshop. Under the direction of NPS's Seed Center, the workshop brings experts and students from around the globe to Monterey, California, to focus on some of the world's most complicated issues.
We do a lot of experimentation with computers. We call them computational experiments. And what makes these really special is we have clusters of computers that allow us to run thousands and thousands of computational experiments. And that's what we call data farming, is growing data with computers and to do experiments you couldn't do in the real world.
Being able to put together a simulation model and play with this in that simulation world allows us to play a lot of what-if games so that we can come up with some suggestions, maybe a much more limited set of things to try out in live experiments, and so shorten the time to go through what otherwise might be a very trial and error process.
The event truly puts the work in workshop, as those that attended try to come up with solutions to a variety of problems.
It is a working workshop. It's not just a conference. We have 17 different teams, and they're focused on specific problems. We have teams looking at models of what we call cultural geography or social dynamics. They're looking at trying to take some models of how populations react to different events and attitude spread. We have teams that are looking at some logistics issues, teams that are looking at piracy problems. We've got just a whole host of questions. And then during the course of the week, this workshop brings together military analysts, subject matter experts from around the world to come down and sit and work on these problems. We like that collaboration. We like to, be mixing and getting the different viewpoints and so forth. And so this opening session is one of the ways that we get that cross-fertilization going on within the workshop.
The workshop alternates twice a year between international locations and the Naval Postgraduate School, and it's a tremendous benefit to the students of NPS.
The team, in about a week, they formulate a model, they implement it in a computer, they run it, they analyze it, they draw insights from it, and try and iterate that process a couple times. That's all the things our students need to do on their thesis research. So ideally, we like to send a student to a workshop early in their time here just to learn, just to be part of a team, observe what's done, and then the second time, in a perfect world, they're actually a team leader, and they'll have a whole team of people working on their thesis, from experts from other countries and data analysts, and that way they can get different perspectives on it, and it really improves the quality of their research. Plus, it helps them make an impact really all around the world.
In addition to benefiting students, perhaps more importantly, workshops like this benefit the Department of Defense, especially as DoD tries to respond to numerous challenges in a rapidly changing world.
And as we move increasingly into peace support operations, peacekeeping operations, disaster relief, irregular warfare, counterterrorism, again, these are all models that sort of many of the traditional Defense Department force-on-force models just weren't capable of addressing. A lot of this has direct application to the warfighter, and that's something that we're very proud of in the SEED Center, in the OR department, I think in NPS at large, is that we really are looking at ways to go ahead and help the military decision makers make better decisions.
Well, the Naval Postgraduate School has a very rigorous space systems program. In fact, we've graduated over 38 astronauts, more than any other graduate university in the country. Recently, we invited over 700 middle school students to come to NPS and have the opportunity to meet and ask questions with a live downlink from NASA and the crew of Discovery, the commander of which is an NPS alum.
ISS, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, this is the ISS. We are ready for the event.
Navy Postgraduate School, this is Houston. Please call ISS for a voice check.
Discovery, ISS.
How do you hear me?
Good morning, Dan. We have you loud and clear. Welcome back to the International Space Station. How are you?
We're doing great here, Dex. 1, 2, 3. All right, so without further ado, hopefully you heard that greeting. Okay, they did. They heard it. We're going to go ahead and get into the questions now. And if I get my notes out, on my script it has each astronaut that the question is for. I'll go ahead and say who it's supposed to be for. Excellent. Thank you, Dottie. Thank you. Yes, they really are in orbit. So I'll say who the question's for, but of course, you're the commander, Dex, and you can have anybody answer it that you want to. So the first question is supposed to be for Dex, and here we go.
My name is Ben Hyman, and my question is, what was the first thing you saw on Earth after you made it to orbit?
That's a great question. We launched, if you got to watch the launch, it was really early in the morning, so very early in the morning for you in California. And we launched from Florida at about 6:30 in the morning Florida time, and it was still dark, about 40 minutes before sunrise. But as we launched and climbed up into the upper atmosphere, we hit about 8 times the speed of sound and went into sunrise a long time before the Earth did on the ground. And we got into sunrise, and then shortly after the main engines cut off, we came off of our external tank, and we do this pitch maneuver that enables our crew members to photograph the external tank for engineering purposes. Well, anyway, about 30 minutes later, Jim and I took the orbiter and we maneuvered it so that we could do our next orbit burn to circularize our orbit. Well, when we did that, we looked down, and there was the coast of France, and we could see the orange external tank way down below us, but still flying formation with us, basically, as we're headed over Europe. It was really interesting to see.
Next question is for Jim.
Hi, my name is Evan Patel. Can you show us how things behave in space?
We know you've been doing a little bit of that already.
Take a ball or a CCP or something. Hey, Evan. Well, that's one of the best parts about space is how things behave. And yeah, I think Dottie gave you a little demo a second ago, but we got a few things here that we came up with to show you. Let me see here. Dex, do you mind holding the mic for a sec? So, one of the little things I found is just like picking up tools and messing around with them today. I was fiddling around with this thing, kind of get a rate on this little handle here, and then let go, and wow, it takes off, and sometimes you get an axis of symmetry where it spins normally, and sometimes you don't, and it takes off like that.
Right.
We have fun with food. Food is one of the more fun things we do. You don't just have to eat like normal. You can play with your food. It's allowed in space.
Great answer, Jim.
The next question is for Dottie.
Hi, my name is Christian Johnson, and what has been the hardest part of the mission for you so far?
Hey,
Hey, Christian, thanks for participating in this. And the hardest thing for me so far is actually just doing some of your morning operations. As you can see, my hair is really long and curly, and you can't really wash your hair in space. We have this camping shampoo that you run through, and then you kind of comb it through your hair and you try to towel it off. But it's much easier for me to take a shower on Earth. And also changing my contacts, I always have to think, okay, I got to put this contact in, so I put it on the wall, and then I get it prepped, and then I get it out and make sure I don't drop it, and then I get it in my eye. And on Earth, it seems a little bit easier. But today, we were doing a lot of transfer, and that is so much easier than on Earth. In fact, yesterday, my friend Naoko moved almost 3 tons of equipment, all with her legs, through the International Space Station. Well, some with her hands, too. But in space, it's much easier to be a mover.
The next question is for Jim.
Hi, I'm Stella Kral, and my question is, how well did the training you received prepare you for this mission, like, for example, the simulators?
Well, it's really incredible how well trained you are. Yesterday we had our first spacewalk, and myself and Stephanie Wilson were the 2 station arm robotic operators supporting the mission. Yeah, actually right here is the robotic operator station that we were working at. These 2 controls you see are the ones that we were using to fly the arm. And I'll tell you, if it hadn't been for the beautiful views we saw behind our camera views of the station and the EVA guys, the spacewalkers, I wouldn't have believed I wasn't in a sim, because it was so similar. And so things just went really flawlessly yesterday from a robotic standpoint. And we just, we have great support back in Houston. The people that train us work so hard to make sure we know what we're doing, and they do a great job. One of the things about being in space is that it's very hard to just hold still, perfectly still. You'll notice if I let go of something, he's going to move. He's going to twist or turn or something. And so when we're up in orbit, the vehicles that we fly, generally we want to hold them in a certain position. Like, for example, when we're undocked in the shuttle, we're not on the space station, we like to point our payload bay at the Earth to help keep the payload bay warm. And so in order to do that, we have little jets all over the vehicle that fire off to keep the attitude right where we want it. And those jets are flown, basically, we tell them via computer what we want the attitude to be, and then the computer flies sort of like an autopilot, flies that attitude. So no, there doesn't really need to be a pilot right there on the stick, although if we need to, we can take over and fly the vehicle manually.
Thanks, Jim. Unfortunately, it looks like we're out of time. We have about 600 more questions for you here today, but thanks very much for your time today. Good luck with the rest of your mission. We'll be watching you online here, and go Discovery and go ISS. Thank you, guys.
Go Discovery and go ISS.
We'll have more of Inside NPS right after this message. Well, the Department of Defense has created Cyber Command, and here at the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, we're preparing tomorrow's leaders to deal with the challenges that lie ahead. When most people think of defense, this is probably not the scene they imagine. But what these NPS students are learning may have lasting implications in the future security of our country. The Cyber Defense Exercise, or CDX, is an annual event sponsored by the National Security Agency. NPS students compete with the undergraduate service academies as well as other DoD graduate institutions during the exercise. Their job in the competition is to set up a computer network and then defend that network from NSA members posing as hackers.
We create basically a private network with NSA, and they come over that private network and then challenge our students by trying to take over their systems, usually through different types of very current attempts that we would see on the outside world. This year is actually very unique in the sense that they've actually sent out a member from the NSA to be representative of an insider user group. We've gotten very good at defending from the outside, but as we've seen in real world, recently in the last few years, very common for the DoD, which had issues with thumb drives, etc. Sometimes it's the insider that can create the problem, not always the outside.
And Cote says, as the concern over cyber threats grow, so do the challenges.
This is one of the lessons that they learn as they set up these networks to defend. You have to be perfect. You have to basically seal up every possible hole. You have to watch every possible avenue attack. You've got to really be on your game, whereas a hacker really has to just find one way in. You know, one small hole can compromise an entire network. And so somebody who may have done this job right 99.9% of the time doesn't make a difference, because that 0.1% is when that hacker is going to get in, embed themselves, and take over your network. This really does represent more of what we're going to see in cyber warfare. For example, the Cyber Command that's being stood up within the Department of Defense is going to be very much based upon looking at watching networks to see if we've been attacked, what type of retaliation may be required for that, more so what type of defense is going to be required for that. Many of the students here will actually go on to be part of the Cyber Command, or maybe not at this tour or within the next tour, but we do have some students that are directly representative going to the Cyber Command themselves.
One of the hallmarks of the cyber defense exercise is it gives students a chance to experience real-world situations and real-world attacks.
When the Navy goes out, they shoot real missiles in the sense that you need to know how to prepare for, how to react to, how best to manage, and then of course to be able to do it in a very efficient and timely manner. This is really no different. This is actually a live fire exercise where we're seeing live active attacks come at us, and we have to go ahead and position ourselves, deal with those, mitigate those, report those up a chain of command to headquarters, NSA, and say, this is what we found, this is what we've done to mitigate.
It was very fascinating to see, get the real world aspect, how it actually works, instead of being in a book studying about it. You get your hands on, get your hands dirty, and have fun with it, and see what you really knew and what you didn't.
The Naval Postgraduate School prides itself on its ability to bring increased capabilities to the warfighter. And the cyber defense exercise shows that tomorrow's wars may be just as likely to occur in cyberspace as they are on the ground.
I see this as a tremendous help to the warfighter in the sense that when their students leave here, they'll be able to walk out and know what it takes to defend a network. They'll know, or at least be more aware of, current trends that are out there that need to be blocked. Our students are going to go out and be able to work in an environment where they're going to be much more security conscious, and they're going to be able to take that more seriously and hopefully go out to the rest of their commands or the rest of the people that they work with and try and instill some of that in them.
And congratulations to Team NPS, which took top honors. Way to go, guys. That's it for this edition of Inside the Naval Postgraduate School. From Monterey, California, I'm your host, Alan Richmond. We'll see you next time.